because I tend to approach work in this white hot heat. I mean, if I'm not super focused, then it feels like a throwaway day. And that just doesn't work. There's this trap of needing to be excited about what we're doing in business. Businesses are not necessarily run in these massive bursts of emotionally charged energy. I mean, sometimes we need those. But I also think it's a trap for people like me, possibly like you, when we're good at actually starting things, to think that the same skills and resources needed to just get something off the ground, no matter what, are the same skills and resources needed to steward things, to maintain or to build on something that's already happening. And beyond this, really, it's a trap to think that we have to hit a certain emotional frequency in order to be effective. Can you imagine if, as a parent to my teenager, I had to feel a certain way before I made dinner? Oh, hey, kiddo, now's not just the time. I'm just trying to get motivated to make dinner. You'll have to go to school, or you'll have to, just go without on this food. No, I mean, I will always drag myself out of bed if it's the morning, or drag myself home from work, even after a long day, to put together food for my kid. I don't need to be motivated to do that. It's life. So let's just extend that metaphor. If my business and, my role in other people's businesses is like a child, then why would I need to feel a certain way before I log into my email and answer questions? Why would I need a certain level of enthusiasm when I'm cupping? And for example, something that happened recently was cupping and choosing which batch of Mexico coffee we were going to bring for our Swift and Friends program. Or like, why would I need a certain vibration before I put together my unfiltered essay? To be fair, that's a pretty personal thing. It's best when I'm feeling inspired. But still, I am capable, as a professional writer for more than 20 years, of putting together an essay without feeling it. So setting that concept aside, let's think about this. Businesses succeed when they are successful systems. So emotions are really fuel. Fuel for marketing, for interpersonal connections that can catalyze sales, for huge actions that yield huge results. And big thoughts are exciting. Big thoughts can launch rockets and start movements and create coalitions. And big thoughts and big emotions are the things that get me out of bed in the morning. But businesses are made from systems meant to support the big thoughts, the big ideas of those endeavors. For example, Swift. So we're really off the ground now, much faster than anticipated. And I'm processing that it's time to shift my energy as the CEO and the primary salesperson from this intense rush of startup into a more nuanced approach of stabilization. Because really, the goal is for us to break even in 2026 and to hit the volume that we need to be able to continue stabilized, just focusing on margins in the future. That's possible for us. It's a sensible business plan. I'm in love with it. And to get there, I actually have to hit certain milestones, access certain resources. And I don't really need that same energy that I brought the first few months of Swift, where I was coming back. I was coming back after leaving the industry and after a big failure that I was the face of, and I needed to prove something. It's been proven. Swift is really doing well, and what matters is that I can continue that focus. And so I want to share with you a key system that I use. And I've used this for years. I learned it from the Jim Collins Good to Great and Great by Choice eco-structure. And it's a concept that Jim and his team put together after a really deep dive on the race to the South Pole between Roald Amundsen and Robert Scott. And there's a book called The Last Place on Earth that I highly recommend on winter evenings that you dig into and read. It's a bit of a long read, but it's a fantastic biography, exceptionally well written. And it also dives into the different ways that they prepared for their journeys into the unknown. They really didn't know where the South Pole was exactly, although they had a guess. The Jim Collins team uses this concept to basically say, what is the minimum viable step that you need to take every day to get to a certain goal? Because what Amundsen did, spoiler alert here, so skip over this part of this video if you want to go find out what happened a long time ago in a different place. Amundsen made it out alive with all his men that he took to the South Pole, while Robert Scott died, along with all 4 men that he'd brought with him on that trek. Now, Robert Scott was for a long time seen as this brave, intrepid explorer. But the research that's come out and the stories that have been told have really highlighted how Amundsen, who, by the way, was a failure when it came to business. He was constantly cash-strapped and struggling. This guy was not a success in every part of his life, but you know what he did do well is he prepared for the trek to the South Pole. He really paid attention to the resources needed, and then he had so much discipline with his men. So they marched for 20 miles a day, no matter if it was a blizzard or perfect weather, no matter if somebody had a broken leg or whatever. I mean, I can't remember if somebody broke their leg or not, but take that as an example. And they made it to the South Pole and back, accessing the caches of food that they'd left for themselves, pretty much along the timeline he determined. Some days they made more than 20 miles, but every day they made at least 20. So I've always, with my teams, used this concept. I help people on a quarterly basis refine what is their 20-mile march. And now, in my own role here as the CEO of Swift, and with not a very large team, which is wonderful at the moment, I'm using my 20-mile march as this backbone to success, making sure that every day I hit certain markers. Now, I've got 2 different formats for this. In fact, this is the last action for me today on my full and complex 20-mile march. So I've had quite a productive day. You can tell from the sun in my eyes here that I'm recording in the late afternoon in my office, and I've done all the stuff. But that 20-mile march is pretty complex. It's got everything from making sure I'm informed about the market price and any news that's taken place in our industry, to ensuring I've done a clean sweep of customer communications and a certain amount of outreach that happens on a daily basis. I also do creative work. So I work on the Unfiltered project, and I also look at coffee info docs and see if I need to work on any of those. I check in with suppliers. I look at our cash flow on a daily basis every single day. Leslie Wyatt, our operations director, and I have different roles in evaluating cash flow. So she inputs AP and AR. I go through and I check what's hit the bank account and what hasn't, and then square up against upcoming container purchases, upcoming invoices, adjust for customer delays in payment, things like that. The focused 20-mile march takes me anywhere from 4 to 10 hours to do. So it really depends on how much I have to respond to. But if I get through that 2 to 3 times a week, I make really remarkable progress with my team here at Swift. And then I have what I call for myself a scattered 20-mile march, which is very, very quick. So it's when I'm traveling or sick, or I have a ton of meetings, or I'm out of the office. And it just makes sure that I see the market price for the day, check cash flow, respond to any new customer communications, check our social media so that any inquiries have been responded to. And it's pretty quick. It can take me an hour to 2 hours if I'm really focused. And I know, even if I'm in back-to-back meetings, that if at the end of the day I've checked off every single one of those things, I've kept the ball moving. I've done that minimum. This is a crazy day, but the company is still functioning and all of my roles are working. So that's how I get so much done on a daily basis. A lot of people come to me and they're just like, Emily, I don't know how you do it. Well, I don't think I'm any higher capacity than a lot of high performers. And there are times, entire segments of time, where I think that I'm not performing up to my own standards. But this 20-mile march ensures that no matter how I feel or what fluctuations of energy or focus may take place, or how crazy personal life or business is, or what really wild, crazy things might hit, from tariff changes to cash flow challenges to anything like that, I'm getting everything done that needs to get done. So I end the day every day with an Ivy League protocol, which I think I've shared at a different time, but look it up, Ivy League protocol. It's really simple. You basically just pick your most important things the next day to tackle and you stick them on a list. I have a notebook I made myself with Swift branding to stay motivated because it's cute. And it just has like my priorities for tomorrow and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I write them out for the next day. So that's nice. You don't need anything branded. It can be on a sticky note. So the results of this are pretty powerful. And I wanted to share with you and to kind of circle back. Look, when we are entrepreneurs or when we're in key roles that require an entrepreneuristic spirit, even if we're in larger companies, it can be difficult sometimes to muster the strength to care or to show up with full focus or intensity. And I just want to share with you that there are tools that you can use that will help you to continue to do that work regardless. And that's one of the things that I have found to be so powerful in my now. Well, I started my first business at 13 and I'm 40, and I've scaled, sold, closed, consulted on more than 100 businesses in many different fields, but primarily around food and beverage and supply chains. And a lot of that productivity has come from this approach of just logging in and going through the checklist. I hope that you are having an incredible week and appreciate your time.